Okay, so this is a little demonstration of different image formats you can have, and I want to illustrate the difference between a vector image and a pixelated image, and also in pixelated images between a JPEG and a PNG image. So these are all look fairly similar versions of the Carers Partnership logo, and I've put them into a Word document just to show you that Word can support different types of image, more than some people think. So the top one is a vector image, and the bottom two are pixelated images. Let me first of all show you the JPEG image that's at the bottom here. So if I click it and I drag it to make it bigger, you see two things happen. One, it's got a white background, so it overlays other stuff on there. It's not got a transparent background. Second, as it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, it gets blurry around the edges. Look around the fingers there. So let's go back to what it was before. That's the snag of pixelated images. They have a finite resolution in pixels per inch or whatever, and as you make them bigger and bigger and bigger, they cause a problem. Now that may not be a problem in this Word document, but if it was a huge pull-up banner, that image would look pretty ropey if it was a couple of feet across. Exactly the same thing with, this is another pixelated image, this one up here, but it's PNG with transparency instead. It looks identical here because it's got a white background, but when I drag it, you can see it is transparent because the blue rectangle beneath, the image overlaps it, whereas the other one had the white background on top of it. But it still suffers from the same pixelated thing. If it gets too big, the image gets a bit blurry around the edges. And so if I go to the top one, this is the vector image version. When I drag this one, it's also got transparency in the background, so it doesn't show the white overlay over the blue rectangle. But look what happens when I make it bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. It doesn't get blurry around the edges. It might look a bit sort of not really smoothly drawn, but that's just the fault of the original drawing. It never ever looks blurry. It's always infinitely sharp. And that's a property of a vector image. This one is of type SVG, as you can see here, which stands for Scalar Vector Graphic. I beg your pardon. It's SVG, Scalar Vector Graphic. So my advice is you might as well use Scalar Vector Graphic if you can in applications where they might need to be enlarged to a reasonable size, and provided the application supports that type of image, which Word does, for example. But if it's it's only going to be shown fairly small, then there's no problem in using a pixelated image like one of these two. They're both 480 pixels wide. One is PNG and one is JPEG. Makes no difference if the background is the same as the background of the JPEG, but if you had to enlarge it and wanted a background to show through with a different color, you would opt for the PNG with its transparency. The vector image is 8 kilobytes. That's the one at the top. That's 8 kilobytes. The JPEG image is 67 kilobytes. So there you go. The vector's way smaller. It's because it only has to describe what the image is instead of show every little pixel on it. It describes it in terms of equations and shapes and so on. This at the top is 8 kilobytes. That's the vector one. The PNG one down here is 47 kilobytes, and the JPEG image on the bottom, that one is 67 kilobytes. So it's nice using vector, takes up less space, provided your application supports it. Of course, the situation would be totally different if these images were actually family photographs or something. There, the vector image is hopeless. It wants really simple images to work with, and JPEG would be the best one because PNG would be too big. However, of course, pixelated images are fine as long as you've got enough pixels. Those pixels are just 480 pixels wide. If you had a pull-up banner or something and you must have a pixelated image and you wanted to work from one, if you got a pixelated image that was a couple of thousand or 3 or 4 or 5,000 pixels wide, then it would certainly be sharp enough. But the point is, pixelated images, you've always got to have in mind how big is the final image going to be compared to my number of pixels across it. That's the final determining factor. Whereas the vector image, you can just scale it to whatever you want, provided the image is simple enough to be represented well by a vector image. Okay, And that's that.